Really, really, really good.
How are you? Very good.
Fred, how's it going?
How are you?
Well, think of the years.
December.
You know, I don't know if it's been, they've been using it for almost 6 months now. At least. I don't know that you were that. I mean, I can sit right. I'm between. Yeah, so I don't think it's gonna make it. I like the usually has it. Yeah, M-119. I'm leaving it.
It's okay.
Well, we don't have growth.
We'll roll out of here. Got you. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Well, I just left on when I had, I've been at work. Yes, this is what real people do. They wear real clothes.
Hey, I'm teasing. I wore nicer clothes earlier and changed to worse. I did like I could change. I can't wear it.
Wait, did you have surgery?
You should see the other guy.
I
So that was the correct answer.
Yeah, 100%. Except you gotta make sure it covers your knuckles anymore.
A little minor.
Everything's okay.
Imagine lanes of the
Yeah.
the queue.
You're apologizing.
We should sell her Saturday. Used to be the shop. She's young. She's actually.
And you know, so I read it, but I'm
These are the ones. Another route.
They are there. They have a college degree from. I know my step grandson.
No, we don't have a route. We just have to move. So you got your feet.
I think it's too much. I know, but like, she's like, I don't want to say. Oh, there's was it a back of entertainment, right? Compared to videos, maybe.
I don't. Oh, yeah. Yes. You're not gonna be here. It's really no, we can't. People want to know, you know what? I did a business. A lot of times you are just entertainment. There's no smoke. from one building to the other, just because of my house. I never did. Which minute is
Yeah, because there was a lot of similar signs. I dropped. And I won't charge you.
I don't know, unmute or mute.
What?
Do I want it on unmute or mute?
Well, mute it.
I don't want.
Then you're not gonna hear anything.
You can.
They're gonna hear you.
If you talk, see, mute my audio, okay? I don't want them to hear what we're saying.
He's got it. Thank you. My parents. That's great.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Victor and I'm not with MDOT, so. Someone else. But all right, I'm Victor. I'm the city manager here, and it's good to see a lot of faces I haven't seen before. I'm sure some of you from the city and the townships. But the reason we're all here today is because in the course of conversations with our DPW director, MDOT was giving us an update on the progress of the washout reconstruction there on M-119 by Harrison. And in that conversation, they suggested to us, well, what does your city think about rerouting M-119? And I said, well, I don't know. We haven't discussed it. I need to discuss it with the city. So what they asked was, can you discuss it with your council? So council can give MDOT a reply on what they think. And what they essentially showed us was, this is what you see right here. And this is, sorry about my poor lines there. I'm not the best artist, but this is M-119. And M-119 exists, obviously, currently goes down Main Street, up State Street, along Lakeshore Drive, out into township. What they suggested was a potential reroute, which really doesn't mean anything other than an exchange of jurisdiction. They would want us to take over jurisdiction of existing M-119 past Park Street or it turns into Lake, and then they would take over jurisdiction of Lake Street. That was their proposal, their suggestion. They didn't have many other details other than that. They wanted to know what we thought. And so, of course, staff, DPW director, police chief, our engineers, and other city staff, we're looking at, the cons, the pros of this situation, and we're taking this seriously. But our goal is to go act on this quickly, get the community's input. Sorry, Kathy, don't worry. It happens all the time. Get the community's input. We have a survey out there, which is great. We already have about 250 people respond to that survey.
Oh, great.
And our idea is to give council the information from the community's feedback as well from staff's analysis, so then council can give a formal reply to MDOT on whether or not they want to engage further in these discussions, or whether they just want to say, you know what, this is not a good idea. MDOT, we're removing ourselves from this conversation. So that's my goal. Is we've already had a meeting at the DDA about this. I've informed the school superintendent, so he engaged the school board, as well as the planning commission is also going to talk about it at their next meeting. So we're acting quickly, because it's not because they're going to force this onto us quickly. It's because we want to be able to give a quick response, and we don't want to spin our wheels if it's something council doesn't want to engage. We don't want to go spend several months, but we also want to make sure we're doing things correctly. So tonight, I know there was some, I guess, confusion. MDOT is not going to be there. They're not answering questions. This is the city taking questions and comments. So we can give council the information to form a reply. I'll try my best to answer some questions. I don't have all the answers. Like I said, this is basically what MDOT told us. I don't know much of the details, and there's a lot of open questions, like what it means about liability and risk and the speed limit and all that stuff. But it's good to hear what the public thinks about that. So that way we can note that when council makes a reply to MDOT. The way I want this to work, because we have a large crowd, and I don't think we want to be here for several hours, but I think everyone wants to be able to say their opinion and ask their questions, is give everyone 2 minutes to speak, up to 2 minutes. You don't have to speak 2 minutes. You don't have to speak at all, but give you 2 minutes. If someone said something before you, you can just say, I echo what that person said about, the speed limit. Really, we've thought about a lot of different things, but we haven't thought about everything at the city staff. We're definitely aware of costs and liability and jurisdictional issues. The one question that we get frequently, which was, can MDOT just do this? Can MDOT just take the road in? It's not that simple. I think, if MDOT wanted to, they could probably, make a case to take a road, and say we want to turn it a highway, but abandoning a road is a different situation, right? If they were to abandon this road, that would involve probably agreements between the city and the state. And so I don't think MDOT wants to force this on the community. What I think is they want to see if there's an aptitude for it. And that's what we're here tonight to determine. And like I said, we have about 250 responses on the survey. Good feedback, and I appreciate that. And please continue to pass that survey for another few days or so. And as I said, the planning commission will talk about it, and eventually we'll take it to council, maybe on March 20th, if we have enough information to make a recommendation. If not, sometime in April.
On the city's website?
Yep, the survey's on the city website under community feedback webpage. All right, well, that's what I have. So what I'll do is I'll call on you when you speak. Please say your name and your address. So that way we get a sense of, where you live, city limits, outside the city limits. It's helpful for us when we're, it's also helpful for MDOT when they're, if they're probably going to be listening to this. Yes.
Could you just maybe give a brief explanation of why this is coming up now and why MDOT would want to do this?
I can't tell you for sure. I can't tell you exactly. I can tell you what I think. I think is that with the washout there on M-119, there's been concerns throughout the decades about, drainage issues, rain event issues, stability issues of the bluff. And my suspicion is it's becoming all along M-119 all the way up to Cross Village. It's becoming a bigger issue. Slope stability, the bluff stability, as well as water pooling drainage issues. So my hunch is that they don't want to be necessarily responsible for or liable for those issues, but they didn't come out and say that. So I don't want to speak on their behalf, but that's just a suspicion. So saying that, I'll try, like I said, I'll try to answer any questions, but please, say your piece, and I'll be taking notes, but I'll also answer some questions and say your name and address, and that'll be helpful. So I'll do my best to call on one. We do have, I also say we do have members of our boards here. We do have, planning commission members. We have city council members. So people are in attendance here. I don't, we're not here to have a city discussion at the board level. We're really here just to have a public forum, a public discussion. And hopefully we can get a good gauge on what our community and our residents think. And that's really the goal of this. And for those on Zoom, what I'll do is first go toward people that are in person. And if you do have a question or comment on Zoom, please raise your hand on there, and if I see you, I'll unmute you. We do have staff member Lucas Van Zoom. He's our DPW director. He can answer some questions. He is on Zoom as well. Again, we don't have all the answers, but we'll do our best to answer some questions. Just to reemphasize, this is MDOT's idea, it's preliminary. They didn't provide us much detail, it's open-ended question, mostly, what do you guys think about this? And I said, I'd have to ask my council, tell us what your council thinks. So I think council wants make an informed decision based on staff analysis as well as the public feedback. So who wants to go first? Right here.
Thank you, Victor, for holding this hearing and gathering input, also members of the council. I'm Keith Newberry, 2565 Pennsylvania, West Weekly. Our family has roots going back to 1887, so this is, we're blessed to be in this area. I just would ask that the council and the city of Harbor Springs take a long pause at this, and I would suggest that you actually oppose MDOT's idea to misroute it, more from an impact on our businesses. If we reroute that, the beauty of Harbor Springs is having people come through the down East Hill, looking at all the historic architecture along Main Street, potentially shopping in downtown, dining in downtown, and then continuing up the historic route up, M-119 all the way to Cross Village. So once again, there's a lot of beauty. And for those who don't know Harbor Springs, we all know this quaint village, but for those who are passing by that decide to get on their apps, let's take a historic drive like M-22 or some other historic drives. I've seen M-119 hats in Canada and interface with people. And they always talk, when you engage them, they talk about Harbor Springs and they talk about the town, they talk about Cross Village, but it's about the journey. And I'm part of several car clubs. And this is one of the, at least in the Midwest, one of the top 3 that come up. That's a good thing. But we don't want to have those people, that what I call the tourists, to bypass this town. Those of us who are familiar, we're going to continue. The locals and the resorters are going to continue their paths regardless. They'll continue on those roads. So once again, we should be proud to showcase what our downtown and our town has to offer. And just think about people who use mobile apps who are not familiar, out for a drive, and when it takes them through Lake Street, and whatever the speed limit will be, because the state will set the speed limit, and maybe it'll be 30, who knows, but they will bypass all that, and then they'll end up on M-119 at Little Traverse or at the West Traverse Hall instead of really starting their journey from the West Hill. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. That's Rick. I know Rick.
Rick Tarczynski, 465 State Street. My top 3 concerns about this move include the schools that we've got on Lake. When you go there in the morning and when school is out, it's already a traffic jam. If we start funneling all that extra traffic, especially with the leaf peepers in the fall, that's going to be an unholy mess. The other 2 concerns I have are State Road, where it comes into Lake, and State Street. Those are 2 more bottlenecks. They've gotten really bad with the current detour from 119. And I think if we route traffic through there all the time, you're going to need 2 traffic lights there just so people can get in and out, because it's always backed up. And I know what the speed limit is, it's going to get worse. You know, if they can make that 30 like they do downtown, they're going to be going through there pretty fast and could give our police department a lot to do.
Thank you. Answer. Back there. Oh, Bob.
I've worked all over the Midwest in heavy construction.
I've never been any place where a state route was rerouted through a residential area where decay didn't begin to happen on both sides immediately. Instantly, people that live on the sides of this road, their home values will plummet. That's the first indication of what happens. This is a blatant attempt, I believe, on MDOT to push their financial responsibility on this community. They don't want to pay for any more landfalls or landslides on M-119, so they think that we'll just pay for it. That's and run this through our residential area past our schools. It's ridiculous. It's a blatant attempt at.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Tom Swan, 500 East Lake Street. Have the same concerns about the schools, traffic and so on, but also the kids. Any kid that would wander, that it's just has nightmares spelled all over it. We as residents aren't for it, of course. Also, I work at Perry Farm Village. We have elderly that are out walking. They'll walk to the market. They'll walk. They'll go for a walk across the street. We have people in mobile powered wheelchairs that will go across to go for a walk with their dog. It's a safety concern. Again, going through a neighborhood, horrible idea. Who knows what will happen with the speed limits? The street is taken care of so well in the winter. Will the city continue to do that, or will that become a state's? In your opinion, you know if it will become a state?
I don't think it would become a state responsibility.
Okay.
And we do have agreements with them with taking care of their land.
Okay, well, that's great.
Yeah.
But no, I think, no, I don't think it's a good idea for many reasons what people have said.
Right there, yes.
Hi, Pam Holbrook. I live at 642 East Lake Street, across from the barber shop. Also, all the schools, of course, but picking up kids from school, the traffic jam down there by the schools, but trash pickup, leaf pickup, the mail is already a backup up and down Lake Street. And I can't imagine with added traffic and the speed limit possibly changing, that that's going to be any better. And I say no.
All right, I made some notes. I'm Christy Hollingsworth. I live in West Traverse Township on Lake Street, right across from the golf course. My first question is, since 1.5 miles of this rerouted road is going to be going through West Traverse Township, I'm not here in official board capacity, but we have not received any communication whatsoever from MDOT.
I can tell you, so when MDOT brought that up to us, when they did this, we said, that without going to county or township, and they said they know, but I think they want to go to us first because the current washout is in the city limits. So if it's a no from us, I doubt that they would want to engage further.
Okay. Well,
That's my suspicion. So.
That was my first one. So the burden of maintaining M-119 would fall on the township and the city on that portion of the road. There's also 2 golf course crossings going across the north side of Lake Street. There are several school crossings going across there, Perry Farm Village going across there. And West Traverse Township spent several $100,000 a couple of years ago pulverizing and repaving that road. And given how the state of M-119 looks, my fear is that they're going to neglect Lake Street and it's going to turn into another M-119. Not only that, the people that purchase their property on M-119, 90% of them are purchased it knowing it's on a state highway, and the people that purchased their property on M1 or on Lake Street purchased it as living in the neighborhood. So that's definitely going to affect the property values there as well. Yeah, so there's a lot of foot traffic on Lake Street because M-119 is so bad. And bike traffic, dog traffic, people running, pushing strollers, kids riding their bikes to school. There's so much traffic on that street, and I really, as a resident, hate to see it degrade any further.
Yeah, my name is Alan Proctor. I live 824 Ottawa Street. I'm just kind of curious, is there any type of traffic counts or anything on these two streetways or whatever that MDOT has? Like, you know, how much traffic they're talking about, number one. Number two, to me, I don't really see the value of just accepting something like this without some kind of traffic study or reason behind it. That just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And yeah, that's been already echoed already. My concern would be the schools and the traffic crossings, so thank you.
Yep, I think to basically answer your question there was, when I talked to MDOT, they acknowledged that if this were to go forward, that several studies would have to be done. So I don't think it's something they envision. Yeah, so, but anyway, yeah,
Did they
no
do-
stuff, no, they didn't provide us with that.
And then I guess I had one more thing. Did the DDA kind of view this as like a bypass or anything like that in economic sense? You know, is that how they're thinking about it? Or I guess I could look on their website or whatever, but I'm just curious.
Margot is our DDA director, and I just thought she really quickly wants to.
We did discuss it, and there are some pros and cons, but yeah, I think for the most part, the DDA board felt that it would be bypassing the downtown and diverting some of the tourism and traffic from there.
I would agree, yes. Okay, thank you.
Right there, yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Kenny Stewart. I live on 30 Sayan Drive. It's a dead-end street that comes off of Lake Street. We're on the south side of Lake Street and on the western edge of Bluff Gardens. There's 4 houses on our street. I agree with all the comments that have been mentioned this evening. I'm not going to repeat them, but there are a couple things that I wanted to add. And I could relate to your comments on just outside of the city border. I'm within the city line, but out in that area, in the northwest corner of town, there are no sidewalks. On Lake Street, the sidewalks end at Perry Farms, but there's about a quarter mile more of city property on the south side of Lake Street that continues west with no sidewalks. That's where I live. So if there is going to be a M-119 relocation, then we really need to address this. My wife walks almost every day through the winter. I walk and ride my bike through the summer. We also have 2 school-age kids next to us, and across the way is 3 more. So if you don't do it for my wife and I do it for the kids. There needs to be a safe passage there.
So they can walk to school.
So they can walk to school, so they can ride their bike, so they can push the stroller. Because especially in the winter time, the shoulders are mud and packed snow. So we need to fix that. The other 2 items I wanted to mention is the speed limit. It was mentioned earlier, but this is very much a concern for our part of town. Because when people either head west out of town, or they come in from Lake heading east into town, they think it's still somewhat not town because there isn't all that much house density there. So please know this and thank you. Keep up the good work. You guys park right next to the Bluff Gardens and make revenue every day. So I'll gladly bring you a bottle of water and snacks. Just and the third thing I wanted to mention is, I know it's been a topic for the city, but we need to keep it on the front burner, and that's noise. If we reroute to Lake Street, now we've got groups of Harleys, oversized SUVs, all that stuff coming through during the summertime. And I used to work in the automotive industry for decades. There's what's called noise pass by. The automotive firms need to address a certain dB limit that the car cannot exceed. We should think of standards about noise in terms of dB, set limits, and if we need to, assign tickets to people for excessive noise. Whether we have this relocation to Lake or not, I think that's something that should be considered. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Hello, I'm Kate Flavin. I live on the corner of Harrison and West Bluff. For those of you who may not have been in Harbor Springs as long as I have, the corner of Harrison and West Bluff has washed out twice, okay? What I'm curious about, Victor, is has MDOT, and I welcome what you had to say, done any type of research as to the amount of traffic that goes down that road and also the weight of the cars and machinery that go down that road? The biggest thing that we're concerned about that live along West Bluff is that Bluff is going to wash out. Okay, there's just a guardrail there There's no bracing on the other side. We've all tried to do what we can to keep erosion from happening on that side of the bluff. And those of us that live along there would like to see something done about rerouting the traffic. I know that's not everyone's favorite thing to do, but there's a big concern about that bluff just basically washing right out.
And to answer your question is, I don't know if they've done any research on traffic. I don't have that answer. I do know that they are going to do a permanent fix there for what had happened previously. So that they are fixing the washout. But I don't know what their goal is after that happens. So I mean, the city has expressed concerns. I've done some little research. We've had concerns about that area of M-119 for decades. I found an old letter from 2003 from the city manager in 2003, Fred Guter, that had asked that question to MDOT. You know, hey, there's a problem here with drainage and water issues. What are you going to do about it? And it seemed like MDOT recognized there were some problems and said, well, we don't have the resources or can't do anything about it right now. So it's been an ongoing problem as those that live there know that. So anyway, Betty. Yeah.
The people below, do they own the bluff above, or do the people across the street own the bluff?
Depends on what part of bluff you're talking about. So
North, it's
so
state-
there's on the south, on the bluff,
well, from state north.
from state north, so
Who owns that section of
the first section is owned by technically the people who originally had that plat. So people on 4th Street and 3rd Street technically have ownership in that bluff. Next to it, there's a city section that the city owns, and next to that, there's a conservancy, the Nature Conservancy owns. So it's owned by 3 different entities, really. So as you go west.
So they, you know, the trimming and all the rest of the stuff that on my side of the state, you know.
On the east side, yeah.
Yeah, we've.
That's mostly privately owned.
That's right.
Yeah, most of that's privately owned, except on Spring Street right away. in the
But
shade
we
tree.
have absolute jurisdictions on
Yeah.
what is done. I just don't know who's taking care of the north that it washes out.
That's a good question. It's who's taking care of it.
Yeah, who is? Who's trimming the trees? Who's cutting down all the stuff that it washes out? You know, we're not allowed to. So, of course, the boardwalk, I think, is holding it there, but that's another.
Rocky.
Holding my hand up for so long, I think all the blood was down. I don't know if I should come up here. Basically, I'm against the reroute, and I'll give you my reasoning. 119 that we will assume is much older than Lake Street, so which means more recent repairs will need to be done, upgraded. So that's one issue.
That is true.
Second part, if we take 119, you're not just taking the road. You're taking the easement with the road too, which involves the bluff, the erosion, the trees. So if you measure from the center of the road, 33 feet wide, if the road is 12 feet wide, you're beyond that point. So that's more responsibility on the city. If you get heavy winds and rain, if trees go down, you're gonna have to replant them because that's what holds the bluff together. And they have to be native species as well. So that's one issue. And then the route is much longer than obviously Lake Street. So there's a difference there. So you would ask yourself too, why do roadways fail? 3 main reasons: water intrusion, change in temperature, which none of us can control, and heavy trucks. The compromise, in my opinion, keep it this way, but let the state, MDOT, come up with a solution to reroute heavy trucks outside of the city limit and have them come down. So that is one option, you know, and typically those trucks, there is a study as far as the weight. Now, we own businesses downtown, basically. I don't think there's any trucks more than 32,000 pounds to deliver food. But now you get your fuel trucks, semi trucks, they can be rerouted outside the city.
Cement trucks. Construction.
So cement trucks, if there is a project, they need permission, there'll be a typical route to follow. So those things I think we can compromise on that can be controlled. As far as the elements, we can't. And that bluff could go out anytime, depending on how much rain you get. Nobody can do anything about it. And then you got to think about Class A roads, Class B roads. That is the minimum standard road as far as a Class A. And it's, you know, it's narrow. So if you're having these trucks there, that's an impact. I don't think there's that much big trucks coming through, but that would help alleviate the maintenance and, you know, destruction of the road. So.
Thanks, Rocky.
Thank you.
Lake Street years ago, and I don't know what happened to it, but at the end of Reynolds Field there was a sign up that says truck route, and it sending it down Lake Street. But I don't know whatever happened to that. And I know other people that remember it too.
The truck driver probably took it out.
They had some shopping to do downtown.
Yeah, I don't think truck drivers are big shoppers.
I'm Cora Wade. I own Little Traverse Tile Works right downtown Harbor Springs. I have a business downtown on 3rd Street. I have sent a million things and I don't need to get into all of them. My only thing that I had said, which doesn't obviously help West Traverse, I'm not necessarily for or against. I could argue every angle of it. But it's possibly splitting the difference and having the traffic come downtown and then kind of keep what's happening right now, where the detour is. So it just would detour it up State Road, or State Street, whatever. I get confused on that one. And then going back out to the west. So that was one idea that would obviously help the washout situation, keep business downtown. Obviously, I don't think anything's gonna unfortunately be able to make everyone happy in this situation. That was a thought.
Yep. Let's see if there's anyone else first before we go to repeat. Sorry, in the front here.
I'm Jerry Adams, West Third. My concern is for the retailers downtown. If any of you are familiar with Pontiac, Michigan, they had this glorious idea several years ago to put in essence, a freeway around the downtown areas. And it just killed the businesses all up and down the street. You could shoot a cannon through there. And I'm just concerned that that will happen here. And that's all I can say.
My name is Pam Perkins. I live at 465 State Street, about a block away from the washout. So when the washout happened and all the workers were kind of dancing around our neighborhood and spray painting our sidewalks and stuff with their instructions to themselves, we had the opportunity to talk to some of the guys, and my husband had an interesting conversation with one of them who said they didn't know what to do. So the original information was something along the lines of it was going to be finished by blah, blah month, and then it wasn't, and then it was going to be finished by blah, blah year, and then it still, as we all know, isn't. So my thinking is, if the guys who are in charge of this kind of situation for the state of Michigan, who I'm going to assume are the guys who know the most about it in the state of Michigan, can't figure out what to do. If they turn it over to the city, are we going to have to hire people who know more than the state of Michigan guys to maintain this thing and make it stable for whatever kind of usage we end up deciding to have put on it? So if the guys who are supposed to know the most about it don't know what to do, and they'll tell you they don't know what to do, then who does know what to do? And who do we hire to do it? Thanks for it.
Catherine Nielsen, 488 West Bluff. I just had a question, and how does where does it start? The scenic highway impact? It's a historic highway, M-119. So how does that come into play?
Technically, the tunnel of trees really doesn't start in the city limits. It starts in a township, technically. I mean, but a lot of people use M-119 as a route. So a lot of people do follow that route. Some people don't. I mean, you could plug it into Google and you'll find different directions depending on traffic and where you're coming from on how to get to the tunnel of trees. But a lot of people do take M-119, but officially this tunnel of trees doesn't start in the city limits.
Go right in front of my house, right? Oh, that's motorcycle. But I wondered if that had would have come into play at all in that particular spot where the washout is been a perennial problem.
Don't think so, but I can't, yeah, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Let's in the back there.
My name is Kathy Arnold. I live in West Traverse Township, off of Lake Street, a side street off of Lake Street. Two things, my perception from what I've read is that MDOT ultimately can do whatever they want to. Maybe it's a pipe dream on my part. I want to go on record for saying I'm opposed to it. I am frequently on Lake Street as a walker. There are, for those who are animal advocates, and I don't know if this could be any kind of an avenue for influence. There are gobs of deer all over Lake Street, all over Lake Street. And when I walk 119 into the city, because I'm out of the city, walking into the city, and I do this all 4 seasons on a regular basis, I don't see very many deer on 119. And there are gobs of deer on Lake. And will that give us any kind of an influence because of animal rights? I don't know, just a thought.
And they're all giving birth this time.
Yes, they are.
And guys, hold on one second. Kathy's still not done.
The last thing is there going to be any kind of a tally done for who's against it and who's for it?
So I'll answer your first question the best I can about if MDOT can do whatever they want, and I don't think so, and I don't think they want to. I mean, I don't think they want to just, do something that's gonna be divisive in the community. I really don't think so. I can't speak for them, but I don't think so. I think they would want to, based on conversations with them, probably enter into agreements with the city on exchange of jurisdiction if the city moves forward. Your second question, is there gonna be a tally? The closest thing I'm gonna a tally is the survey results. I'll present that to the council, and the survey results will show, how many people are for or against something. And it won't be, it'll be representative. I don't, how accurate will be representing the entire city's feelings. I don't know, but generally, when we have several hundred people reply to survey results, they're generally pretty good at indicating where the community's at. But am I gonna say, it's 420 to 200? I don't think that's necessary for council to make to issue a response to MDOT. All right.
Yeah, Kenny Stewart, 30 and I spoke earlier, and I'll be brief. I just wanted to add an item for the record. On the west side of Lake Street, where it goes back into 119, I don't live in Little Traverse Township, but that intersection can't be suitable for the kind of traffic we're talking about. So if there is going to be studies and surveys and all that stuff, I want to make sure that they examine that properly. It's not just like adding right by the city hall. It's not just adding a street light. There's layout problems there. So thank you.
Anybody else? Let's go with, you guys, someone who hasn't gone yet first. Okay.
I grew up here. I know a lot of you guys, Danny.
Your name?
Seth Brown.
Okay.
My dad, right at the corner of Lake Street and State Road on State Street. There's a couple things that I'm really curious about. For one, no one, I don't think, since I've been standing here, mentioned proximity for the fire station. Fire station's on the north end of the city. If you increase the influx of traffic on Lake Street, which being a single lane each way, for one, where are the cars gonna yield when a fire truck has to go by? For two, with the traffic studies, I'd be venturing to say they're gonna do it at a certain time of year, not numerous times throughout the year, including summer and winter times, which obviously has the influx of summer. And then the third thing is growing up here, going to that house, I was there 4 times. I was probably at my own house, Shea Elementary, middle school, high school. All of those residents that live there, think about where the middle school is. Think about where those students are gonna be walking. They're not gonna be walking north, they're walking south, right onto Lake Street there. It just seems a little crazy to me. Seems like everybody else standing here is thinking the same thing too.
Anybody else who hasn't come? Yes.
My name's Andy Roder, and Sarah and Patty and I live at 480 East Main Street, so on M-119. So I just wanted to say, because we were on Main Street and we're the only one of a handful of folks who actually are here year round, we don't want it to move on Lake Street either. I've got 2 kids that go to school up there at the middle school and one at the And when at the high school, they're crossing that traffic all the time. We bought our house knowing we were on a highway. We made that deal to be where we are. Sarah and her dad own the rocking horse downtown, and we'd much prefer people to stop and buy toys. So, thank you for this.
Can I just say
Yeah.
something? I'm Rob, 160 Lake Street. Over the pandemic, it seems like our area's grown.
Oh, yeah.
There's a ton of people up here now. Usually there's a break in the action, but driving into Petoskey and coming back, it's not the same. And it's not a small community. I mean, you used to know which, driving down the road, they knew where you were going. You didn't have to have turn signals. It's changing, and it takes so long to get out of my driveway now. Especially with State Street down there. It's nuts. And, I used to do tree work up here. Believe it or not, I was in decent shape back then. And, erosion on that bluff, Joe, I mean, over the years, people want that view. That's why you're here. If you're down there along the 119, you want a view of the lake. But over years, the trees have gone. And that's what was holding the soil together there. I'm not saying in a negative way. It's just part of it. Over the years, I mean, it just happens. And erosion is an issue.
True.
So, I don't know. I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Have you seen the clear cut next to Judd Hill?
It's awful.
And she left the trunks there to hold the blood.
Well, they're dead.
Well,
It's only gonna last for so long.
Over years.
That is a topic probably for.
I mean, that's different day. Dead tree doesn't hold on forever.
I'm Jonathan Panowski. I live at 631 East Lake Street, lot 57. I live in the trailer park. And I can confirm that Lake Street does get a little bit busy, especially during the school traffic, especially because usually between 8 and 8:30, I'm on my way to work in Petoskey, and there's sometimes it takes me a little while just to make a left-hand turn. So that is a definite concern, and I do not like the idea of sending a state highway down a residential area, especially when we have schools just down the street. And everyone else pretty much said what I needed to say. Thank you.
Newbury 2565 Pennsylvania Avenue. Just a quick question. So from what I'm hearing, the only reason MDOT wants to change this is they want to shift the repair and the money onto the city where they don't have to do these repairs?
That's
Is that basically what I'm
an
hearing?
assumption.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was not missing
But I mean,
something there.
I would, if it's something that the council wants to engage further, I'm sure we would, want to see more reasons and their actual
And
reasons.
that's what's come out so far.
That's what we assumed because it came
Okay.
out in the course of the conversation of repairs.
All
of the
right,
existing ones. So that's why we made that assumption.
Okay.
Karen.
Karen Strout Donnelly, 644 Ann Street. Somebody kind of made a brief comment about cyclists on Lake Street. I just want to talk a little bit about that. I am a cyclist. I spend put a lot of miles on my bike every year. And most of Lake Street is not really bike friendly. It becomes a little bit more bike friendly as you get further west when you actually have a bike lane on either side of the road. 119 has become increasingly more dangerous to ride on because there is increasing traffic and there's no shoulder. So more people are using Lake as a way to get to 119 if they want to go up to Goodhart along that way, which is still dangerous, but we still do it. So I'm just making the point that people are worried about sidewalks and kids on sidewalks. You can't really ride a bike on sidewalks because they're not supposed to be ridden on sidewalks. So there really isn't a place for bikes on Lake Street. So the increased traffic could add a lot more danger to cyclists, which is already becoming even more dangerous than it used to be.
So there's someone, Fred and then Bob.
Fred Simons, and I live at 455 Arbor Street. Let's say I'm a tourist traveling into town, following my GPS. It tells me all of a sudden that the next intersection, turn right, which is like for park, I don't know. Anyways, so that takes me on to the new area, which I wanted to go downhill. So I reprogrammed my GPS to go downtown. Well, it gets to Hoyt Street, it tells me I can turn there. I don't do that either. Then the next one is Arbor Street. Okay. Now, if you're not familiar with Arbor Street, it comes off of Lake Street, goes both ways, goes down, and it comes to Judd Hill, which street then becomes Judd. Okay, and then it goes to Payne. Okay, so they're probably going to take Arbor Street to get downtown, and then the only other chance they have is State. Okay, we're talking about everything alongside of Lake Street, but tourists are going to go into the neighborhoods also. And I'll tell you right now, the speed limit, well, the speed limit is 25, no matter where you're at, or driving responsibly. But if it's posted 30, it's 30. Okay. People are going to come down Main Street, and there's only one stop sign on Main Street, or I'm sorry, Arbor Street, only one stop sign, and that's Pine. Okay, so they come to that. I'll bet you 3 out of every 20 don't even stop at that sign. Okay, then they come down Arbor, and it's going to be a real pain. That's all residential. There's no commercial in that area, and it's going to be a nightmare.
Thanks, Fred. Bob, you have your.
Yeah, Bob Feldman, Pepper Street. Quick question. Is there a way for us to be more preemptive on this rather than wait for MDOT to make their plan and their surveys, yada, yada, and then they come and tell us what they want to do, and then we fight back? Can't we streamline this process and go to MDOT and say, before you get started, no. And if you try, we'll fight you.
So Bob, that's a good point. What we're doing right now is to give council as soon as possible so they can give a response to MDOT. And that's what this whole point is right here, so we can be proactive. And
Okay, I don't want to wait for MDOT.
No, that's.
And fight them back.
Yeah.
I'd rather be the-
I agree.
Summer company, tourists, come on.
One more comment.
Yeah.
I think it was addressed by you. The intersection of Lake Street, West Lake Street and M-119, very, very difficult line of sight. That's where the township hall is.
Yeah.
The township hall is in the road right away. There are no plans to rebuild it. So to rework that intersection would be extremely expensive and extensive. And there's not, I mean, there's a personal property on one side, there's a township hall on the other. That would be something that really needs to be considered in this.
Anybody else in person? Yes.
Lisa Morris, I live at the intersection of Lake and Lake Shore, and I just want to know when I need to move my flowers and shrubs. Somebody suggested a roundabout.
Oh, Anybody else in person? Yes, right there.
I was born and raised here in town, and you know, I remember back in the days, well, it's a ward, okay, and to me, are you guys gonna do like a voting and see how many people, and then take that into what your meeting is, and then take that to MDOT? Is that what you're doing?
What we're taking is our survey results, this meeting, and results of the DDA and the planning commission meetings, taking that to council. Then council decide what kind of response they want to give to MDOT. It could be a simple no, a simple yes, so it could be a list of reasons. That's up to council, but we're taking this to council, then council decide how they want to respond to MDOT.
So the people are speaking. What you guys are gonna do is take what we have tonight
Yes,
and take that into an effect and listen to the people.
of course. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
And the survey as well.
And the survey.
Pardon me?
And the survey results as well.
Okay, got it.
If the survey basically asks you, if anyone hasn't seen it, it asks you if you're for or against it, or if you don't have a preference at all, and then it asks you pros and cons. So it gives you a lot of places to write. I mean, I typed in a lot of stuff in there and it never stopped me. So you can type in whatever you want. You go.
So yeah, and it's a good point. So what we as city staff are going to present to council are the results of the public feedback. So the survey results and this public meeting. the results of, or the opinions of our boards that are appointed by council to analyze these things. So the DDA, the planning commission, their input's gonna weigh, and then our staff analysis of what we think the pros and cons are, which many are similar to what's here. But we also have other ones that we've been looking into as well, especially the condition of the roads and the infrastructure and things like that. So all of that is what we're going to give to council. And then council, like I said, will decide how they want to reply to MDOT.
How was this meeting, was there a letter?
This was
Public
like-
notice.
Sent out?
So what I mean, it was in the Harbor Light, we put it on the website, we had a text notification, you can sign up for text notification. We put it out there.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
Well, yeah, you're here. Back there.
Paul Shady, 4560 West Lake Road, it's just outside the city limits.
Sorry, I missed your name.
Paul Shady.
Oh, okay.
Was just curious if 119 was routed along Lake Street. Does that give the state additional authority on Lake Street? And does it encroach on homeowners' rights as far as any future work that they would want to do?
So I don't know the answer to your second question. The first question would be, it'd be essentially an exchange of jurisdiction. So yes, they would have jurisdiction over that right away, existing right away on Lake Street. That'd be the aim of this. So yes.
No, I understand that, but I'm asking you, right now, if they wanted to do widen the road, I mean, the future work, would they have, would there be, would we lose? Yeah, would there be more eminent domain?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know to what extent they would do that, but they would be in control of that right away, which Lucas can maybe speak to that, but I think it's 66 feet, tell you right away, 33 feet from the center road. So they would have control of that. Any other further takings or eminent domain, they would have to pursue legal actions for that. So, but I think, again, this is assumption. I think their goal with this is to not have to spend a lot of money. So I don't think, obviously there's liability on the slope. So I think the idea here is for them is to not have to spend more money than they need to. And I don't see why, I'm just giving you my opinion. I don't see why they would spend a whole lot of money changing the road to avoid spending money elsewhere.
It's also not just about them spending money, it's about telling us, having more say over what we can do, can't do.
Exactly.
I get that. I was telling you why I think they wouldn't probably do that. But that's just an assumption on my part.
Contribute to the boardwalk.
Yes, Mark.
I'll try and make this as short as I can here. Mark Rondell, 181 Zoll Street, across the way here. I haven't been here as long as a lot of you people. I started in 1959. I've lived here quite a number of years. I've lived directly on Main Street, right at the corner up here. Still have property on M-119. I've watched an evolution in town. I've seen it change and morph and evolve. And I've been committed for a long time that it's bad for the community to have a state road right through the middle of our town. I'm hearing tonight that Lake Street is not a good option either. And this is what I've written to council and to MDOT. And maybe it's not the question for tonight, Victor, but I'm a planner type. And for all the years that I've been in town, all I've ever heard is the state will never, ever do anything with the state highway. You can't make the state do anything. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, drops this bombshell. Whoa, the state might be amenable to doing something with that. Well, I look at it as this might be an opportunity to get it completely out of town.
Thank you.
Go to Pleasant View, quick, state, middle road corridor. Go straight to state to Cross Village if you want, but get it out of town. The traffic, I think the references to traffic studies here tonight have been phenomenal. We need serious, good, long-term traffic studies. Over the last 40 years, there's been phenomenal growth and development in the townships north of town.
there are so many people now coming through town rather than to town that we're destroyed by the traffic that goes through town, not to town.
And the road noise.
And the road noise and everything, and the destruction and you name it. So I think we really need to push the MDOT to think about trying to get this thing out of town so that they can make their intersections up there. I think they're all gonna be roundabouts. And they don't need to be in the center of our town. I think that this is the way that it ought to go, and I don't want to belabor the points here.
So we're approaching 7. Anybody else in before I go to Zoom has something? Yeah. Gretchen? And I was on. All right, guys, please a little quiet. We still have some people talking.
631 West Lake Street. I just moved up here about a year ago to get to a nice, quiet little town. Have some peace and quiet in a residential area and enjoy the beauty here. And I've already experienced everybody being rerouted in front of my house all summer because of the washout. So I know what that's like, but at least the speed limit's still 25. And the police, thank God, are out there getting people. So, you know, I'm just mortified that I bought this place and put all the money into it and it could potentially become a state road. I mean, that's what I moved up here to get away from. And it's just, I don't know what else to say. The noise, I just don't want it. I'm totally against it.
Anybody else in person? Yes.
I just want to refer back to John Stracy, 664 East Lake Street. I've lived here 4 years now.
Can you speak up?
Yes, I just have one question, and I understand your concerns about where the M-119 is at the moment. If we reroute, in other words, reroute the M-119 out of town, and I'm all for that, don't get me wrong, that'd be wonderful. But then we have to pay for both roads, East Lake Street and Main Street, with all the maintenance that's going to be done there. All I can see is taxes going up. I'm not against your idea, I'm for your idea, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to money, like everything.
Certainly it's a consideration.
Yeah.
Keith, just one additional comment. I would ask the council to study other historic highways and travelways like the Tail of the Dragon in North Carolina. All the roads, historic roads in California going through wine country, and how the towns have found ways to embrace them. And if you travel Route 66, you see towns that have failed miserably by keeping the traffic out and they're desolate, and then other towns have embraced them. So because it is a historic highway in a unique town, we need to understand how other towns have done this successfully.
Thank you. Is there anyone on Zoom? I believe I got a chat from Shadow, but if you want to speak, please raise your hand and say your name. Anyone on Zoom? There is no comments. So, all right, before we wrap this up, it's been an hour. I was hoping for 3 hours, but you guys.
A long day.
Bite your tongue. If there's anything else, if not, we do have, like I said, we're gonna have a planning commission meeting. We're gonna talk about it at the planning commission, and council will please pay attention to the agendas. You can sign up for notifications on the city website. We send out email notifications. Pay attention to city council agenda. It will be on the city council agenda either in March 20th or in April if we don't have our report ready for council. I don't see anyone's hands raised. So, so yeah, you can go to our website also to check for agendas, but anyway, March 20th or in April. So That's all.
Now I don't have to sneak out. Yeah. I have some.
Oh, yes,
Where is she? I know. How are you? You feeling better?
But I enjoy it, you know, I mean,
Oh, yeah. It's good. I'm glad you guys are here.